Hey guys, we're going to start creating our Postcard Advanced Clipping Mask project. So whether you're using Photoshop or Photopea, what I want you to do is open up a 7" by 5" image, and you can keep the resolution at 300. You can go down to 150 rather than so small as 72 because we're not going to be printing these, just to save a little bit of space. And then you're just going to hit create. Remember, in Photopea, you want to name your document right away. Alright, so now we have our landscape-oriented image. If yours is vertically tall way, then you need to make sure you adjust your numbers. What we're going to start with is adding our text for our postcard. So the first thing you need to decide is what state you are going to be visiting. I am just going to do Connecticut right here. So I'm going to start by typing Connecticut in all caps and choosing my font. Now this works pretty well size-wise. I've got a little bit of a border. If you do not have the right size, then what you're going to do is click on your text, and you can of course change the size up here and the font as well. So a pro tip is if it's highlighted and I just click in here, I can actually use my arrow key to toggle down and choose any font that I see. And I actually like this font better, so now it's too big, so what I'm going to do is just change this to be 100 and see what that does for me, and that actually worked out perfectly. Sometimes it's annoying to play with the different fonts calculators because I don't know what size it's going to be, so I will hit Command or Control+T to free transform and just press and hold Shift while I drag the side corner box, out. And then that's a little bit quicker of a way to size it to this space you have. Hit Enter or Return when you are done, and you will apply the effect. Alright, so I've got my state name, and now I just want to jazz it up because the examples you noticed said greetings from, and this is kind of like a retro style postcard. So I am going to choose a more script-based font. I think I know which one I want. It's one I always use. And I already have this one downloaded on my computer. You guys will need to cycle through the ones on your computer or the ones on Photopea's font library. So you will not have this font unless you download it specifically. I need to make it smaller, so what I'm going to do is free transform it just so I can go a little quicker, pressing and hold Shift, dragging it, and last minute it got distorted, so I'm just going to hit Control+T again and adjust. Alright, so now I'm thinking that this font isn't exactly retro. It doesn't scream anything particular to me. So what I'm going to do is go through my font book again. And my font book will show little samples, so that is very helpful, so I can choose a little bit easier. But for Photopea especially, it goes really slow. You may want to just use the arrow key. You may be able to choose a specific font. We all have to work with what we have. So I'm going to make this one a little bigger. It's definitely a little hard to read. And I like this one better. It's got a weird kitschy vibe. Okay, so next I'm going to curve this text. I want to just make it a little bit more interesting. So to curve any text or to really modify it in any intense way, you're going to go to your window and your character, if I knew my alphabet, and your character option. And then once you select that, you'll notice the little A with a line over in your panels here, and this is how you can kind of enhance your text. If I wanted something to be a little bolder, this button will do that for me. If I want to be more italicized, this button will do that for me, and I really do enjoy the italics on this. It gives that kind of retro funky vibe. If I wanted my text to be closer together, the kerning, the VA does that for me. Mine is already set to -5. If I had it to auto, then they would spread out just a little bit. Any negative number will bring them closer together. Any positive number will space them out, just so you can see. For this effect, we definitely want our words very close together, so I'm going to go back to -5. Now, to modify your text, you're going to decide, do you want to leave Connecticut like it is, or do you want to modify it slightly? you can go to your Edit menu and go to Transform. Free Transform is our Command-Control-T, but if I go to the Transform drop, I can hit Scale, Rotate, Skew, Warp. They all have different options, and I want you to go ahead and play with them to figure out what you want. But if I do Skew, I can go back and forth, and you'll notice that it has that little arrow which shows me side to side. So I can drag it like this and give it a bend, hitting Enter when I'm done, and then I need to move it over so I can see it. The T is really close to the edge, so I would need to then free transform and make this just a little smaller to fill the space. Selecting Greetings From, let's see what the other one does. So Scale will bring it up and bring it down. And Warp. And Warp will allow you to bend your text. So up here you can see it has the arc menu. So I can just kind of select one of these, and I'm just going to go with the classic arc, although you can see the different effects. And then you want to change your bend percentage. Let's just start with 10. And you can see it bends it a little bit, and then you can just keep adding little by little until you get the effect that you want. And maybe you don't want it bended at all, and that's up to you. I'm going to go back to 10% just to give it a little. And then I'm just going to apply that effect, and I can move this wherever I want. Alright, so now once you've got your basic text figured out, you can enhance it by adding some additional effects. So down, selecting Connecticut, there is this effects, so FX, it's effects, layer styles. So what I'm going to do is click on that, and you can see all of these different options, and a lot of them are pretty interesting, but there's a lot to get to know. Let's start with something simple. A stroke would be an outline, and I'm just going to move this over to the side so you can see what's going on. And this color is set to black, which you will not be able to see since my text is black. So what I'm going to do is select a red so you can see automatically that there is this little tiny red outline around the letters. And if I increase the size, you'll see it gets bigger. Okay. All right, so now I can change. I'm going to go down to 5 actually. Now, oops, I accidentally hit Enter, so let me edit that. So I just can double click, and then I can go back to editing it. So I'm just going to click on the little stroke menu, and now I can edit it again. So if you make that mistake like I did, then we can go back and fix. All right, so position. Position is on the inside right now. So the inside means it's going to take away space of the black. I don't really want that. So I'm going to go to outside. Outside, you'll see there's more black space now. And let's just show what center means. Center means it's actually in the middle of your text line. So you could imagine it being like a little line here, and this red part is now centered within that. And then when I hit inside, it goes only inside the letters, and this goes only outside the letters, which actually makes them appear even bigger. And you can see the gaps in between the letters is disappearing as the red outline extends. But if I were to have it on the inside, you would see this is the normal gap spacing between the letters. So there's no right or wrong, it's all about what you are choosing. And I'm going to go with outside. Blend mode, don't worry about, we're going to keep that at normal. Opacity, you want to keep at 100% because we want this to be bold and something easy to see. Now I am going to pick white for my border. And I know that you can't see that because the background is white for now, but these black letters are eventually going to change to be pictures. So I want to pick something that's going to complement them and not be too crazy. The red will contrast with my images and it'll be hard to see. So I definitely don't want red. You can do black. That would work as well. Black or white is really going to be a nice option, or any other kind of muted tone that's not too intense. Don't go with anything too bright. So I'm just going to hit OK, and then I'm going to hit OK, and that applies the effect. Just for purposes, I'm going to fill the background with a color so you can see that. And I just had a gray in my color picker, so I'm just going to use that there. All right, so this is a very simple start. If you want, you can apply more than one effect to each text layer, and I haven't done any to greetings from yet. I'm back on Connecticut. I'm going to hit effects, and then I'm going to do the drop shadow. So this drop shadow, as you can imagine, is a shadow. So what I'm going to do is change the angle and the distance to make it bigger. Okay. And all of these, they have different things. The spread makes it like thicker, or not thicker, that's not the right word, more potent, like very obvious, not so much like, it's like a dark shadow. Size, of course, would explain the blurriness, the size, like the bigger it gets, the more blurry it gets. So again, picking what you like. I really want it to be very sharp. So I'm going to keep it around 5 because I don't want it to be too intense. Alrighty, so I actually don't like the upper angle, so I'm going to alternate that so it's a lower angle. And now it looks like my text is popping out. I think I want it to be a little closer. Not so much. Alright, so that's good. So again, just keep playing with it until you get an effect you enjoy, and then just hit OK. Now, instead of hitting OK and then going back to the effects, if you want to look through any of the ones here and kind of fiddle with them, then you're more than welcome to. If you want to hit up the bevel and emboss, this one's pretty cool. It adds like a bevel to the edge, and you can see it started already, and that just makes it look a little bit more retro. I'm actually just going to hit OK. I like those default settings. Alright, so now we've got our text effects, and we're going to begin editing the images within the text as well as the background. Now the background doesn't need to be perfect today because you're going to be editing this again next week. So if you don't have time for the background today, don't worry about it. But keep in mind you need to save this PSD file to continue editing it another day. So I'm going to do a safety save right now. No matter what programmer you're in, you always want to make sure you're saving along the way. If you are in Photoshop or Photopea, it doesn't matter, you're going to go to File, Save. Because in Photopea, this saves it automatically as a PSD, and you'll notice it downloads. Here in Photoshop, just like back in school, we're going to go Save. I'm going to save it on my computer. And I'm going to title it with the naming format. And I'm going to keep it as a Photoshop document because I want to be able to edit it. I'm just going to keep it on my desktop for easy access, and I'm going to go ahead and hit Save. Make sure you hit OK in this next box, otherwise it will not save. Alright, in Photopea, make sure it continues to download before you close out of anything. If it's not 100% downloaded, then you will lose all your work. And it's always a good idea to kind of double click it, open it, and make sure it's good. Now we're back to editing, and we're going to go ahead on our search and find some images to clipping mask into the words. Since I'm using Connecticut as my subject matter, I definitely want to use images from Connecticut. Now, we can use a simple Google search for this, and I'll show you some options. So, Connecticut, images, and you'll notice just a whole bunch come up. Now, since this is not actually going to be a published item, it essentially could be okay to use some of these, but I am dead against using images that are not ours because someone went through the trouble of taking them and editing them, and it's not really fair to us to steal them. So in the Tools box, you can actually sort by usage rights, and we can choose really any of these. We are non-commercial. If we were a commercial company that was going to be editing and selling and advertising, then we would not be able to use these. But we can use any of these settings. I'm just going to click the first one. And any of these images are now okay to use. So it's going to take a little bit to find some images that work for you. First things first, I definitely want to include the Capitol building, so I'm going to click on this one. And then I'm going to right-click and open this image in a new tab so it gets nice and big. And then I can actually just copy it and open up Photopea or Photoshop again, and I can just paste it in. So I'm going to hit Command or Control V, and it will paste right in. So now, what you'll notice is it pasted below my text layer, and that is not good. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to drag it up to be above Connecticut. And now I'm just going to right-click and say Create Clipping Mask. And you will notice that it fills the text. But what we want to do is edit this so it fills only 1 or 2 letters at a time. So to make that a little easier, I'm going to undo the clipping mask and I'm going to resize my image. So I hit Command, Control+T, I'm grabbing the corner and pressing and holding Shift to make it smaller. And then I'm going to put it over my letters and I'm going to size it just until it barely reaches the top and bottom. And that is much better. Alright, so I'm going to hit Return to apply the effect. I'm going to right-click on that layer again and say Create Clipping Mask. And now you'll notice it's much better size-wise. So this actually works pretty well just across the 3, and then I can blend into a new one, but I really want to focus on just 1 or 2 letters because I want to try to include as many as possible. What you'll notice is you can actually move this image around within the text. So it's okay if it's not perfect right away. I'm going to align it so that that Capitol building is mostly visible within the C. So it hits weird on the O now. So what I'm going to do is just grab my eraser and erase the parts of the image that are on the O. And now it's time to go ahead and find my second image. So I'm going to go back to my internet search. I'm going to close out of this window and I'm going to find another image that is useful for Connecticut. I really love Connecticut in the fall, so I'm going to go ahead and click on this one. And then again, I'm going to right click and say Open Image in New Tab so I get the really big file, and I can just copy, go back to Photoshop or Photopea and just Command Control V, paste it in. Before you create your clipping mask, you want to resize, Command Control T. Make sure it's about the same height as your word, and then apply the change, slide it on over, and right click, Create Clipping Mask. And now you'll notice that it fills in these other letters, even though it's on top of layer 1. Now I see that it is taking over the blue sky in my C, and I don't want that, so grab your eraser and erase the part of the image that's on the C. I also don't want it to take over any of the ends, so I'm going to go back and erase that. Once you're done with that, you're going to continue along this process until every letter is filled in. Once you've got 3 or 4, do that safety save just in case. When you're all done with all of your images, you are going to go to File, Save As, and make it a JPEG. So I can see right here it's a .psd. I'm going to turn it into a JPEG, and then I'm going to upload this to the Google Classroom. Keep it around 8. You don't need to make it a crazy large file, and then hit OK. Make sure you hit OK. If you are using Photopea, please make sure you go to File, Export. Your save as a PNG or JPEG is under the export category. So you need to go to File, Export as a JPEG, and that's what you will upload to the Google Classroom.